All right. Hello and welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris Curran. I produce podcasts and I teach podcast production at Podcast Engineering School. And on this show, we talk about podcast production techniques in great depth. And sometimes I do interview episodes, and sometimes I do episodes like today, where I'm going to go over 8 or 9 of the Daily Goody blog posts that I write. These are short blog posts that give a little tip or technique or some sort of little bit of knowledge to help you produce better audio. And I usually post them 3 times a week. You can sign up to receive them via email. Just go to podcastengineeringschool.com. You could sign up for the Daily Goodies. The microphone I'm using in this episode is the Shure SM7b, which I haven't used in a long time, actually. I've had it for many years. It used to be my mic, my go-to mic for several years, but that was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I'm going directly into my MixPre-6 first generation. And I will EQ it and compress it in post, but I'm going to try to take it easy. I'm just going to try to do some light processing. By the way, the next semester of Podcast Engineering School starts on, guess when? April 19th, 2022. So that's in a couple weeks, actually. And also, just so you know, all the daily goodies that I talk about in this episode, I'm going to link each one of them in the show notes. So if I talk about something and you're like, oh, I'd like to go read that daily goodie on the website, all the links are down below. And I'm going to play some Barry clips because in a recent daily goodie, which was titled Bleeping Curse Words, I included a text quote from Barry, but I want to play the audio. Well, I'll just play it.
And they were cussing up a storm. Profanities left, profanities right.
That's right. Profanities left, profanities right.
Every second word was a F word.
Every second word was the F word. Okay? Well, anyway, so those are some good Barry clips. There's Barry. Barry, do you think I will ever stop playing clips of you on my show?
Nah, it ain't gonna happen.
Well, that's probably correct. And how, Barry, how would you describe the shows that I do when I do not play your voice on the air?
It's a mess.
It's a mess. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Barry, you're awesome.
Oh, forget it.
I know. Well, anyway. All right. So had a little fun with Barry. Let's get to the daily goodies. We're going to start with this one titled Reducing Editing Time with Better Recording Habits. All right. This is a big one. And this, all these tips go for professionals, but also for the average podcaster. So these are just great tips because, you know the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The same thing is true when you record audio. If you can record the audio at a high quality without any of the common blemishes, and I'm going to list them in a second, but if you can record good audio, that's like literally 80% of getting a good sound is just recording the audio properly and avoiding like silly things. Okay, so let's go through the list. So you can cut down the time of your post-production by developing a handful of good recording habits. And here are a few examples. Avoid extraneous noises. All right, this has got to be the number one thing. Like putting drinks down on the table, clicking a pen, your phone notifications going off, your dog sitting next to you barking, like literally just avoid all extraneous noises. And it makes the audio so much cleaner and again, provides a better listening experience to the listener. And that's the whole goal. Here's another one. Avoid moving your microphone around too much. This is a bad habit people get into because they watch like Joe Rogan and all these other shows, Tim Pool, where those guys, like, they move their microphone every 5 seconds. I mean, not really, but I'm exaggerating. But, now, if you have your mic on a boom arm, yes, you can move your mic around if you want to, if you need to, but it's really good practice to just get in a good position and put your microphone where it needs to be and then just leave it there. Now, if you're doing long form, like 3 hours, yeah, you might need to lean back in your chair at times and you might need to move the mic. That's understandable. But otherwise, try not to move the mic so much. That's another tip. Next one, consciously avoid ums and lip smacks. So now, in the beginning, you're probably gonna say a lot and lip smack a lot. I can't do lip smacks really well. But yeah, so as you progress and consciously become aware of your ums and lip smacks and consciously try, when you hear it, try to refrain from doing it again. Literally within 3 to 5 episodes, you'll cure yourself of that terrible habit of saying and lip smacking. Now, for instance, some people like me, we still say a little bit, here and there, there's an because that's more of just, I don't know, more natural, but, that's not as bad as some people, like 3 times every sentence they're saying So anyway, that's a habit you can develop to not say and not lip smack. Next thing, prepare a simple outline for each episode so you don't fumble transitions. So transitions are really important when you're going from one topic to the next. Like, some people, they'll finish a topic and then they'll have to scramble around and find their notes, and it takes 15 seconds to make a transition. So if you have just a simple outline in front of you, you can make transitions quickly and gracefully. That really helps a lot, believe it or not. Next one, train guests a little bit before pressing record. Yeah, you can actually sort of instruct your guests before you actually start recording. Just instruct them not to make any extraneous noises, instruct them to stay close to their microphone, stuff like that. But that makes a big difference, and the guest will, at least abide by those things for the first minute of the episode until they forget forget what you said and go back to their terrible habits, which some people do, not all people. And then another tip, the last tip here, is to record your show in one take as if it's live. So this, obviously, if you can do this, if you can record it as if it's live, which is what I do, I always do this. Even when I'm interviewing guests, I just record everything as if it's live. The good part of this, or one of the good aspects of this, it captures a lot of authentic energy, which is really important because the listener can hear that authentic energy. They really can. Now, of course, you can still make some edits in post-production. That's not a big deal at all, but sort of getting in the habit of recording your episodes as if they're live, it's so good in terms of energy and flow. It really is. All right, so those are some tips. Those are some recording habits that you can develop that'll reduce your editing time and also improve your show in general. So let's move to the next daily goodie. Referencing your old episodes to evaluate the sound. Yeah, so you can actually reference your old episodes, and which means just go back and listen to some old episodes and just sort of evaluate what you hear, and you can make the evaluation in terms of sound quality and performance, or how many ums did you say? And I mean, there's so many ways you can evaluate your old episodes, but what's interesting? One insightful habit of professional chess players, people who play chess for a living and are the best in the world, one habit they have is that pretty much after each and every game they play, they review the entire game for the purpose of learning from their mistakes and improving their play. And so podcasters and editors and producers, we can follow a similar process, and evaluate our previous episodes from time to time. You don't have to do it. Maybe once a year you could do it. That's probably enough, right? But you can go through, and it doesn't take long. You can do these evaluations in a very short time, and it can give you a lot of insight into what can be improved, what you can change, what you can stop doing, in terms of audio quality, performance, and a lot more. So really, it's handy. I know I don't do this so much anymore. It's actually not easy to do, go back and listen to your show. But honestly, listening to maybe even just 2 or 3 minutes of the episode, you can hear a lot. You can observe a lot just from a couple minutes. So you don't have to listen to the entire episode. I think most podcasters, me included, I literally never listen to my episodes in full, ever. Like, after I'm done producing it and I publish it, I never listen to it again because, I mean, there's no need. So anyway, checking your old episodes is a really good way to grow and to improve and just to reflect on yourself and what you're doing and your progress. It really is helpful, believe it or not. All right, next daily goodie. Earning over $100,000 per year producing podcasts from home. Yeah, there are plenty of people out there that are producing podcasts from home full-time, and they're earning over $100,000 a year. And I have done it. I'm doing it. Other people are doing it. A lot of people are doing it, believe it or not. I know a lot of podcast editors who are maybe new to editing, or maybe they've been doing editing for a few years, but their mindset still might be, to charge customers not enough, and to work with customers who can't afford to pay enough. So, obviously the key to earning, let's say, over $100,000 per year producing podcasts from home is you have to work with the right kind of clients. And those are people who actually have money, they actually have marketing budgets, and they actually want to work with a professional. So that's the criteria right there. I mean, the average podcaster who hires an editor for, let's say, $50 per episode, if you want to earn a lot of money in podcast production, you can't work with people who are going to pay $50 an episode, because you'd have to have like 100 clients and you don't have time to get all that work done. So it can be done. There are a few character traits that you need to develop, though. Number one is technical skills, right? You have to be good at producing podcast audio. I mean, you have to be a professional. You can't be an amateur and a newbie and expect to go out and make $100,000 a year. You just can't. Sorry, you just can't. I mean, you could try, and okay, maybe it'll take you 5 years to get up there, and that's fine. That's great. But one thing people do is get the proper training, right? Another thing is that you need to do to earn that much money is to do quite a bit of outreach. You have to talk to a lot of people. You have to talk to potential clients and just, tell them, hey, I produce podcasts. If you need any help, let me know. I mean, you have to talk to a lot of people. It's a numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more likely you are to find new clients. Another thing you need is persistence for at least a couple years, 3 years. If you persist, you will not fail. That's a given. If you persist, you will not fail. Listen to that again. If you persist, you will not fail. That's just a fact of life, by the way. Now, you can't persist like an idiot, right? You have to persist in the right way and keep elevating yourself and keep learning and keep developing yourself, and also have a good attitude and all that. You won't fail. And then the other thing you need to earn that much money working from home as a podcast producer is a strong will and ample confidence. So to get the confidence and to have a strong enough will, I suggest setting goals properly, and also focusing on your many positive attributes as a human being. Because even if you're not a professional audio engineer like me, you don't have to be, honestly. But so you can't focus on that fact and say, oh my God, I'm not an engineer like Chris. I can never make that much money. No, you can. And because you have to get in the habit of focusing on your positive qualities, which you have many. I challenge you right now, make a list of all the positive attributes you have and all the good aspects of yourself on every level. Is your character, your work ethic, your everything, anything you can think of. It really helps to make a list of all your positive attributes, because then that gives you confidence. So, all right, well, that's it. That's a little bit about how you can earn a lot of money in the podcast production business, all on your own. I mean, I still work on my own. I don't have a team for my podcast production company. I don't have a team. It's me. And let me tell you something. One of the benefits of it just being you is that you don't have to deal with other people and all the nonsense that goes along with that, and which means you can move faster, change more quickly, and handle everything yourself. It's just way more efficient than having too many cooks in the kitchen. Now, don't get me wrong. There are downsides to working only by yourself. There are downsides. I'm not saying there aren't downsides. There are. So it's a trade-off. Do you want to just work by yourself and make a lot of money? Or do you want to try to build a company and work with 30 other people and then try to make a lot of money that way? Either one is fair. You can do either one. So, all right, let's move to the next daily goodie, which is kind of follows up nicely after that last topic, because this one is audio production fundamentals. Yeah, so anyway, this goes to learning and getting a good education of audio fundamentals, because the more you know about audio, the better and quicker you can produce audio. And there's so much to the basics, microphones, microphone technique, recording, editing. There's a whole list on this blog post. I'm not going to read it. There are a lot of fundamentals that you should know if you want to be a professional podcast engineer and producer. You have to know it. I mean, it's just, come on. You're not going to have the confidence if you don't even know the fundamentals of your industry, right? So, yeah, the good news is they're not difficult to learn. I mean, you could theoretically go on YouTube and learn everything, and it might take a long time, but you probably could. And once you learn these fundamentals properly, a great fact is that they're going to stick with you for the rest of your life and also assist you in many other areas like video production. I mean, just think about it. When you're really good at producing audio, you can start producing videos and you already have the audio side covered. It's, one thing to know about video production, and here's the thing. Most people who produce video do not put enough emphasis on producing good audio to go along with their video. A lot of video people, they're mostly concerned with how it looks on the screen, the image, the videos, the video, right? The visual aesthetic. But anyone worth their salt in video production will tell you that audio is at least as important as the video. I mean, there's a reason why George Lucas said, his famous quote, "Sound is half the picture," right? That's from George Lucas, okay? And also Mike Helms said it. So go listen to Mike Helms on the Location Sound podcast. All right, there's a plug, Mike. I'm going to be hanging out with Mike at Podfest actually next month. So in about a month and a half. So the end of May 2022, I will be attending Podfest in Orlando, Florida. So if any of you are there, let's hang out. Let's chat. I'm presenting as part of Steve Stewart's track. I'm presenting on compression and normalization. Yeah, so that'll be a good presentation. And by the way, the presentations there are pretty cool because they're going to be experiential, meaning instead of lecturing you theoretically about compression, I'm literally not going to talk about any theory. I'm just going to literally bring up some audio and compress it in front of you and sort of talk through what I'm doing as I do it. And I'll be using various types of compressors, multi-band compressors, single band, and other really helpful plugins in terms of dynamic range, like Vocal Rider or Max Volume. Those are both from Waves. Anyway, I'm psyched about the presentation. So it's like 20 minutes. I'm going to be doing stuff and showing stuff, and then there'll be some Q&A. So anyway, if you're at Podfest, let me know. I mean, find me and let's hang out. All right, next daily goodie. The Apollo X4 audio interface. All right, so I bought this, I think it was September of last year. So I've had it for about 6 months, maybe a little bit before that. So for the last 6 or 9 months, I have been using the Apollo X4 interface, and I really like it a lot. One of the coolest things about it, well, it's high quality, let's put it that way, like the mic preamps and everything. It's high quality. By the way, it's not cheap. It's a $2,200 interface. The cool thing is, the Universal Audio, that's the company that makes it. In the Universal Audio ecosystem, there are a bunch of plugins that run on the interface itself. So the interface is not just your average interface. It's an interface plus it runs plugins. So it takes some of the load off of your computer because the interface itself is using its processing power to process the plugin stuff. One of the reasons I got it was for like live streaming, because you can go right into the Apollo X4 or most of the other Apollo interfaces, and you can use compressors and EQs, and it'll process the sound in real time. And so if you're live streaming and you want to use compressors and EQs on your voice while you're live streaming, the Apollo series is great because you can actually use the plugins live in real time as you're live streaming. So you can use nice compressors and EQs and you can sound really good while you're live streaming. That's really cool. And I also combined this purchase with the Townsend Labs Sphere L22 microphone, which I've talked about, because there's a bunch of modeling. Well, let's put it this way. Universal Audio has some plugins that do the modeling for that microphone. It's pretty cool. It's a whole ecosystem. It's pretty cool. Now, after having said all that, I will say that right now, and actually over the last 2-3 weeks, I've stopped using the Apollo X4 and I switched back to my Sound Devices MixPre-6 first generation. And let me tell you my thoughts on switching back. And by the way, I'm going to, if you've been listening to my show and following me for a while, I switch microphones all the time. I switch interfaces from time to time. And it's mainly because I'm just doing research, right? Like, I'm the audio guy. I need to try all this stuff out so I can talk about it intelligently, right? So anyway, that's why I'm switching. It's not that the Apollo X4 is bad, or it's not that I don't like it. I do like it, but I switched back to my Sound Devices MixPre-6, and let me tell you something. The Sound Devices MixPre series is badass. Oh my God. That's that was my first thought after moving back. I was like, man, the mic preamps, oof, so good. All right, anyway, let's go to the next Daily Goody, which is, this is actually a previous episode of the show, but I do want to talk about it. It was episode 226, and it's titled, How Podcasters Can Receive Crypto from Listeners. And my guest was Evo Terra. He's a very old school podcaster. The 40th podcaster ever. Okay, just for all you trivia buffs out there. But anyway, we talked about how you can receive crypto from listeners, because crypto is getting more popular and all that. And okay, so anyway, you can go back and listen to episode 226. There's a lot of information in there. But I also wanted to mention the fact that I started listening to the podcast called Podcasting 2.0, which is hosted by Adam Curry and his co-host, which I forgot that gentleman's name. I apologize. But Podcasting 2.0 is going to be the next iteration of podcasting, hopefully. Well, they're building it now. We'll see if it fully replaces, Podcasting 1.0, which I don't even know. I'm not that far into learning about Podcasting 2.0, but the gist of it is that through RSS feeds, it's possible to include a lot of other functionality for podcasters, including crypto tips and other types of tipping and a lot of different stuff. So as we've known podcasting so far, it's been good, but it can be a lot better. And Adam Curry and Podcasting 2.0 are actually working on building the next version of podcasting, basically. It's not quite accurate to call it the next version or the next era. Might be a better way to say it. But anyway, episode 226, go back and check it out. And by the way, just to be clear, I haven't learned enough about Podcasting 2.0 yet to implement any of it into my show. I know there's different listening apps you can get where you can actually tip through the Podcasting 2.0 whatever. So anyway, I haven't gotten that far into it. As I learn about it, though, which I will be over the next, months and years, I will be learning about it, and I will be talking about it because it is that cool. I mean, look, Adam Curry pioneered podcasting in the first place back in 2003 and 2004, right? And now the same guy who literally created podcasting is creating podcasting 2.0. So if you're at all skeptical, if you're like, oh, this is just some dumb guy trying to create something new, which is not necessary, no, like that's the wrong attitude to have about this. This is the Podfather speaking. Adam Curry. I'm referring to Adam Curry, so it's a big deal. It really is a big deal. Okay, the next Daily Goody, and I think this is our last one. No, it's not. This is our second to last one. Sound-absorbing items in your recording space. Okay, so sound-absorbing items or furniture and stuff like that. So basically, your audio will sound clearer and more intelligible if you reduce the amount of reflections in your recording space. So reflections are when the sound bounces off walls or the floors or windows, and it creates the effect known as reverb, right? We know reverb. It's when you sound like you're in a huge room. Like if you ever go into a gymnasium and clap your hands, it's like, ka, ka. You hear the reverb. So when you're recording podcasts at your home or whatever room you're in, if you had like hardwood floors and bare walls, your voice is going to bounce around the room a lot, and it's going to bounce into your microphone. So one thing you can, and by the way, that's not really good because it makes it more difficult for the listener to understand you. You've probably all heard podcasts where the host sounds like they're 50 feet down a hallway, and it's just weird. It's like they're so far away. Why does it sound weird? Well, that's because of the reverb in their room. So what you can do to cut down on this reverb, to dampen this reverb, is to put a lot of absorbing things in your room. Like instead of a hardwood floor, put a carpet there or an area rug or something to absorb the sound, because soft fabric absorbs sound waves, meaning the sound doesn't reflect off of it. It gets absorbed into it like a rug or a carpet. On the walls, you could put foam. You could, curtains are great. You could draw the curtains, and the curtains will absorb the sound. There's a lot of different materials you can use. Soft furniture, like couches and chairs, that works great. Even like a bookshelf absorbs a little bit of the sound bouncing around, but it also diffuses it, that means that it makes it bounce around in all different angles, which actually helps create less reverb as well, a little bit. Anyway, that's why a lot of people put acoustic foam on the walls, is to capture these reflections and to cut down on the reverb. So it's important. And, if you want, that's why a lot of podcasters, they get some foam, right? You don't have to cover every square inch of the room with foam. But if you cover a substantial amount with foam, it makes a big difference. It really does. So if you think your studio might be a little too live, is what we would call it in the music recording business. If a room is live, that means the sound just keeps bouncing around. If your room is a little bit too reverby, then you can get some stuff to dampen it. It really makes a big difference. All right, and the last one, here we go. Barry, are you ready? See, sometimes when I ask Barry a question, I have to slow down because I don't know what clip I want to play, and therefore I don't know what question I need to ask him. But Barry, you're having a great time on this episode, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's not the one I wanted to hit. Barry, you love the show, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. So nothing like just bringing the entire momentum of the show to a halt.
That's frightening.
I know it's frightening, but all right, that was terrible. All right, so the last Daily Goody, poor Barry. The last Daily Goody is a plugin that I love. It's called Gullfoss, 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 which actually in Icelandic means waterfall, I believe. Anyhow, this is a plugin that is really cool. So Gullfoss, I bought it a couple years ago, and now recently they came out with Gullfoss Master, which is, it's the same plugin, but it's set to like the really high specifications. So it's meant for mastering. So it's more resource intensive. So it takes more of your CPU to run it, but it runs at a higher bit rate and a higher sample rate, and to really be the highest quality plugin that it can be. And so what does this plugin do? Oh, funny you should ask. Well, it actually, okay, one way to think of it as like an automatic EQ. Now think about that, automatic EQ. So when you look at Gullfoss, there's literally controls that are, one of them says tame and one of them says recover. So let's talk about recover. If you push up the recover setting, it'll bring up a lot of information that is underrepresented in the sound. So different parts of the frequency spectrum that are a little bit low. Just by happenstance, they're low, right? And so that's good. So it makes it sound more full and more clear, stuff like that. And then the tame setting is really cool. TAME, right? Tame, as in, there's something nasty and you want to tame it. So the tame, when you put that up, it actually reduces some of the resonances and some of the saturation or sibilance is another thing that it can reduce. So it's kind of like an EQ, but it works in a different way. And it's a little hard to explain. You can go on, I linked to a video here in the Daily Goody, and there's a big explanation from a Sound on Sound article as well. But let me just tell you, sometimes when I get audio like from a client and I don't know what to do with it and it just sounds weird, and sometimes I just put it through Gullfoss and I try a bunch of stuff, and a lot of times Gullfoss, it sort of performs like magic. This Gullfoss Master, it's priced at $200, so it's not cheap, but it's really cool. And one other thing I did with this Gullfoss Master plugin recently is there's an old song that I played on and produced when I was living in New York in the mid-90s. The song's actually from 1995. And my good buddy and I are about to release this song, and it's a joke. It's like comedy, basically. It's like, what do you call those songs that are like, yeah. No, okay. I can't think of the word. Anyway, it's a joke, but it's funny, and it's a fun song, right? So we're going to release it. Anyhow, so I took this recording from 1995, and by the way, we recorded it on a 1-inch tape. It was a 16-track 1-inch tape machine, and we had I think it was like a 32-channel Allen and Heath console, and I used my roommate's guitar and bass, and I used the drum machine, and then my buddy sang on it, and literally it's just a mix off the board with no automation, right? Nothing. From 1995. So the mix is pretty good, by the way. Me and my friend mixed it. I think I did most of the mixing because that's always been my specialty. But those are the days when there was no automation. So as the song is playing, if you want, like, for instance, if you want the guitar to get louder, you have to push it up manually and then bring it back down manually. Same thing with the vocal. If you gotta ride the vocal, push it up and down when you need to. So and mute things, like I mute the hi-hat in the middle of the song for a period. So like we were riding faders, muting things all live. It's like a performance. Like in the days without automation, doing a mix was literally like a performance. And that's why a lot of times we would have to do it multiple times. Like you would do the mix and you'd be like, yeah, I didn't ride the vocal quite right. We got to do it again. And then you got to do it again. Anyhow, I'm telling you all that because we mixed that song. It's pretty good, but it's not the best mix in the world. It's good, but there's all kinds of frequency stuff going on. Like we literally didn't hardly use any EQ. I don't think we used any compression. And so what I did is I took that mix, which by the way, the only version of the mix that I still have from 27 years ago is an MP3 file. I don't even have the WAV file, nothing. In fact, I think we mixed it down to cassette. I think. We might have had a DAT player in that room because the console and the tape machine was actually in our flat in Brooklyn. So I I don't remember what we mixed it onto. I think it either might have been cassette, it might have been DAT, but I don't think it was a DAT player. I don't think we had a DAT player at home. Anyway, but the only file I have for it now is an MP3 file. So I had to bring the MP3 file into the computer, and then what I did to master it, I ran it through, and yes, it took me all that time to get back to Gullfoss Master. I ran the MP3 through the Gullfoss Master, and it worked so well. It just sort of cleaned it up, and it's hard to explain what it did. It just cleared it up, and we had to remove some low end and add some clarity. But before using the Gullfoss Master, I actually tried like using some EQs and compressors and a lot of the usual stuff I would use. And I went a little overboard because, I was just sort of experimenting. And I did too much to it. Like the next day I listened and I'm like, yeah, that's too much. It just lost some life. It doesn't breathe as well. So then I was like, you know what? Let me go minimalist. Let me just use Gullfoss Master. And that ended up being the best version of the mix. So I didn't even I don't think I used a compressor I didn't use any compression, or I probably used a limiter in the mastering part of it, like the final master part of it, getting the loudness correct. But I didn't use any. Oh, and in Gullfoss Master, you can sort of tweak the EQ a little bit. You can tweak the low end and the high end slightly. So I did that. But besides that, I didn't use any EQ or compression. Anyway, when the song comes out, I will let you guys know. And just keep in mind it's a joke and it's supposed to be for fun. And I know you don't understand that right now because I'm not telling you what it is, but I'm doing that for a reason. Plus, I don't know when it's going to come out. So, all right, well, that's Gullfoss Master. Anyway, you can tell I'm gushing over that plugin a little bit. It's just very handy. So that is it. I appreciate you listening. If you've made it this far, thank you. And don't forget, if you need help with your production or you want to run something by me or anything, or if you buy a new plugin or a new microphone and you're all gushing, let me know. You can contact me through the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. And don't forget, for all of you who want to get new clients at higher rates, I actually have a smaller course called Getting New Clients at Higher Rates. That's on the website as well. I think the price is $800 right now, and it's almost 3 hours of lessons and all good stuff. If you need a shot in the arm to get new clients and start making real money, that is the course for you. I promise. That's a good one right there. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you listening. Reach out to me and say hello. I would love to hear from you. All right. Until next time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Rock on.